And welcome to the Knights of Columbus family breakfast. We're going to get right into eating because I understand the breakfast is ready and they're chafing at the bit up front. My name is Bob Zen, for those of you who don't know who I am. We have two people here, guests this morning, down from the Expo organization, Suzanne LeBlanc and Ron Pichet, both in the sales. He's no stranger to Champlain. Of course, we have our Grand Knight, Michael Treya, and Father Morgan, who's now going to lead us in grace before breakfast.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord God, you are the source of every good gift. We thank you. Bless the gifts which we will share now through Christ our Lord, and join us together as your people. We ask this in Jesus' name, who lives forever and ever. Amen.
Please sit down. One thing I wanted to mention also while you're discussing this morning, Ron Pichet was with the Milwaukee Braves for several years, a native of Verdun, Quebec. He's been our neighbor for many, many, many years. We'll be back after breakfast.
The head table will go first, and we'll start on this side, and a table at a time will go, and we'll work ourselves right over.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Mike. Thank you. Okay, everybody, if I could get your attention. Everybody's had their breakfast? All right, now I certainly, first thing I'd like to do is make sure that you give our two guests your full attention and be quiet while they're here. They're not professional speakers as such, and they're not used to having noise, and let's show them how nice we are here in Champlain, New York. You can even do the same thing when Mike speaks. That'd be all right, too. I already mentioned Susan LeBlanc. I have her card here. She's a director of merchandising and licensing for the Montreal Baseball Club. She told me here when we were talking a long way apart, but she said she's been with Montreal Expo organization for 9 years. So would you like to say a few words, Susan, to the people here? Susan LeBlanc.
Good morning. I'm not a professional speaker at all, but I do want to say one thing. Being here this morning, thank you for inviting me, reminds me of when I was a young girl. The family gatherings, the family community that you have here is wonderful. It brings me right back to Sunday mornings with our family and Dad and Mom. And the kids, you won't believe how fast you grow up. I mean, here I am, standing in front of a bunch of people, a grandmother, myself, and we've lost that family community. A lot of us in the big city, we've lost it. So it's nice to see that in Champlain. Not only do we have some Expo fans wearing caps that I sell and sweatshirts, and I'd like to see you bring your families out to the ballpark. I think that this season should be a fun one for us. And we'll be there. And when you do come, you let us know that you're coming from Champlain so we can do something special for you. So thank you again. And I really had a nice time. Thank you.
Well, I want you people to know that I'm not wrong too many times, and my wife can vouch for that. But I was talking with someone in the room, and I wondered if this lady is married and has any children. She just said she's a grandmother. Now, would you believe that? So we don't know what the next man's going to tell us here with his wild stories. We're going to do a TV interview with Ron after this, and it'll be on in 2 weeks from today, which I guess would be the 25th. On Hometown Cable, Channel 21. So if you want to hear some of the ins and outs of Major League Baseball and baseball in general, professional of all kinds, we'll be talking with Ron about that. I usually don't prepare for any interview at all, but when you're going to speak about definite things like you will in baseball, I did go through last night a sporting news book I have of 1962. Now, I'll give you an idea. We don't have to ask. He's old enough to be a grandfather. We know that. He is from Verdun, as I mentioned before. He started in professional baseball, I understand, about 1955. Moved along the way. I asked him where his first club was, and he may tell you some of that, or we'll get it later. He was in Oklahoma. He moved along to 4 or 5 of the minor league club, moving up higher and higher, until in 1961, and his picture's in this book, he was in Vancouver in the Pacific Coast League, which is a AAA. For you young people who don't know what AAA, that's the very next step up to the major leagues. And when he was playing, you didn't have 16 teams in each league. You only had 8. So it was very, very difficult to get up into the majors. And he was the outstanding pitcher, #1 pitcher in the Pacific Coast League in 1961. He had come up in 1960, I think, and then he went down for some more seasoning and came back up, and he played with Milwaukee Braves, who were formerly the Boston Braves, and then later became the Atlanta Braves. And he was there from 60 through 63, I believe. 64, I think he was in a different league again, came back up, went to the Angels, and then later with St. Louis. And he'll tell you about that. Then he's been in baseball ever since. Now, how lucky can you be to play baseball and get paid too? I do know he never made over $1 million a year when he was playing. He was telling us earlier here at the table that the #1 baseball pitcher in 1961 in the majors was a man named Warren Spahn, Hall of Famer, the #1 pitcher that year, and his salary was $76,000. Compare that with your people today getting 4, 5, and as much as $8 million a year. It's a whole new ball game. So without further ado, a neighbor, he's been a neighbor ever since he was born in Verdun, and he's just up the road here. Now he's with Expos. He wants to see you people up at the games. We're all fans down here. We're only 45 miles away. Ron Piche, Piche. Right into it.
Thank you very much, Bob. Well, like you said, I left Montreal in 1954, and I went to Lawton, Oklahoma. I was a long way from home. I didn't speak too much English, and my coach, Travis Jackson, said, we don't care if you speak, as long as you can pitch. I room with, like you said, Warren Spahn, one of the greatest ball players. I used to room with him. I remember in Milwaukee. We had a great record together. We won 376 ball games. I got 10. He got the rest. But you know, like playing for the Milwaukee Braves was a great thrill for me. You know, and being in the big league with those superstars. Susan knew Philippe Alou very well. She said he's a great guy. But when I played against him, I didn't like him at all. He was a bad guy. He used to hit me pretty well. But today, well, Philippe Alou is one of the best managers in baseball, and we're glad to have him in Montreal. I know some people said we might not win the pennant this year, but with Philippe, he's going to come up with something. And we got the young ball club, and Moses Alou's back, Siggy's back, and we got a good pitching staff. We got the Martinez Perez, and I hope you don't come up with Pascual Perez. We'll be in trouble there. But Pascual, somebody told me, Jim Beattie said he's looking for Pascual Perez, but I think they're going to give him maybe a AAA contract if he ever play for us. But Pascual was out for 4 years. And I know he told me he pitched very well in the Dominican Republic, and we see what we're going to do with him. But it's not important about Pascual. We got a young ball club. We lost a lot of good ball players, but we got some good young ball players coming up in the organization. And like I said, we got some speed this year. We're going to have some pitching, but power is different. But I remember when I played in Milwaukee, we had some power hitter, but we finished second a couple of times. I missed the World Series 4 times by finishing second. Today, the second best club in baseball that got a chance to make it. Those days was only the first club in the American League, first club in the National League was going to play in the World Series. And I missed that. This is the bad thing about my career in baseball, and I wish I would have played in the in the World Series one time. That's a dream of everybody, to play in the World Series. I remember Ernie Banks, great ball players who never played in the World Series. And Ted Williams, I think he played one World Series. But you see some guys who they play with the right club, the Yankees, that time we used to play maybe 6, 7, 8, 9 World Series. The late Mickey Mantle's got about 10 World Series. But baseball changed today. Now talking about a little bit about me, I'm in Montreal. I'm really happy to be in Montreal. I was 1976, I was the first French-Canadian coach in the big league. After the 1976 season, I was the last French-Canadian coach in the big league. We lost 114 ball games, and I got blamed for 100 games. I used to coach first base. Everybody's yelling in French to the Parrish, the Steve Rogers, the Andre Dawson, the Valentine, and they asked me what they're saying about me. I said, they're not too nice. I love New York, the state of New York, but I don't like New York City. I play in New York City, and it's fun. You know, the old days, we play in the polo ground, and all the pitchers, before the game started, we got to run the outfield. We got a pitching coach who threw the ball. We run back and forth, run back and forth. I think they had a contest up there. You know, they come up with apples, banana, oranges, and they throw that at us. You know, we're running on the field, but we cannot see those people in the stand. We're looking at the ball, and we see a hit by the banana, hit by this, hit by that. Now we got fed up. And Lou Burdette, who's a smart guy, said to one guy who got us pretty good, he said to Warren Spahn, he said, Warren, get him. He said, how am I going to get him? He's up there. Lou Burdette came up with a brand new ball. He said to Spahny, he said, you know that guy there? He said, you've been on us. He said, give him the ball. And he said, get close to him. He's getting close to him. Now he threw the ball. He reached back and threw the ball and hit the guy in the stomach. And he said, oh, thank you, Warren. Thank you very much. You know, I was coaching first base in New York, and maybe the guys had a record too, like you said there, Ron. He had a book on me. And he's yelling at me. He said, Ron Pichet, what a no-good bum. You know those people in New York City, not here. He said, what are you doing coaching first base? He said, when you never been on base on your life. Well, that's the kind of guy he was. I think he was right too. I never been on base too often. A lot of people ask me if I ever hit against Sandy Koufax. Well, I went to bat against Sandy Koufax. I didn't see the ball. He struck me out. You know, he didn't waste no time. No fastball. It's 3 fastballs in a row and take a hike, Ron. And that's what it is. You know, we're talking about Yogi Berra. Great Yogi. Yogi's funny. You know, you come up with some funny words sometime. One time he's in New York coaching with the Mets, and start to rain, 7 o'clock. They call the game up. You know, when he went back home, he's home 8:30, 9 o'clock, 9:30, 10 o'clock. His wife's not in yet. 11 o'clock she showed up. He said, where have you been all night? She said, I went to see Dr. Zhivago. He said, he went to see Dr. Zhivago, and he said, he thought was, you know, so Dr. Zhivago, I missed that joke. I'm going to come back and tell you again. But talking about Yogi Berra, I think he was a great pitcher. I came to bat with him one time. You know, I was up there, and he talked to me in French. And I said, geez, what are you talking about? He said, I'm talking French to you. He said, you're going to strike out pretty soon. But Choo-Choo Coleman, another catcher for the Mets. Choo-Choo Coleman was a catcher, and Casey Stengel was asleep half of the time. And he's up there, and he told one of his coaches, he said, I want Choo-Choo Coleman to hit. One of his coach turned over, and he said to Casey, he said, you sent him down to Buffalo 2 weeks ago. That's it. But anyhow, like you said, I don't want to talk too long. I know the kids were anxious to get some gifts there. We got all kinds of gifts. Susan brought the baseball bat. She bought a ball from Mr. Philippe Alou with his autograph on it. And we got a few tickets there to draw. And after that, I think I'll be glad to be here. And I hope I come back again next year. And if you got any question after, you know, we don't want to keep the people here until noontime. But again, if you want to ask questions to me or Susan, we'll be able to answer to you. And again, I hope to see you next year. And don't forget, we start the season the 5th, Susan? April 5th. And we'll wait to see you up there. And I know the people from Champlain coming a lot. And we'll be glad to have you there. And if you got any problem, don't ask me. Ask Susan. She can fix everything. I know. You know, like Susan, she's half French and half Jewish. She eats like a French. When it's time to pay, she's half Jewish. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next year. Brad, just a second.
asked him to stay here because I forgot to mention something. Back in the 60s, they never heard of such a thing as a designated hitter in any league, so the pitchers used to hit.
That's right. Well, I went to bat. I didn't hit.
Oh, well, I wanted to ask you, pitchers, when they get hits, always remember. Do you remember all the hits you got in the major leagues?
Well, I had 3. I remember all of it. I got one against Spawn, against Gibson, Jimmy O'Toole, and Baltram. But it's tough. I think, like you said, in a big league, the pitcher, they hit too much, and when we don't take anybody in practice, and that's what it is. When you play every day, but you got a better chance to hit. But pitchers never hit too much those days.
Right. One thing I'd like to have mentioned is he mentioned Lou Burdette, who was a great pitcher, along with Warren Spahn. They, in one World Series, I think they pitched 5 or 6 out of 7 games. But you had the hitters in that league. Tell us a few of those real hitters you had that they would recognize.
Well, I think all the young kids don't remember Willie Mays and Henry Aaron. Henry was a very good hitter. I'm glad I played with him for 4 years. I didn't have to pitch against him. But Clemente was there, and you had the Dodgers, the Gil Hodges, the Duke Snyder, and you go to Pittsburgh. In Pittsburgh, you had the guys like Dick Groat and Dick Stewart and Roberto Clemente. I think to me, Clemente was one of the greatest ball players. He used to do everything right. Like hit the cutoff man, time to bunt, hit and run. He did everything in baseball. Some of the long ball hitters, you just hit home runs. But those guys like Clemente did everything right. Steal bases when you need one. Hit the right field when you need one. And that's what it is. I think Roberto, to me, was a great, great ball player. I play with such long, good ball players, but I think, again, Mays was so great in the outfield. And Henry Aaron, they didn't have too much. Henry was funny. He didn't run for nothing. He just played in the outfield. He knows everybody. Like we said in baseball, we got a book on everybody. Like if I'm pitching today, I'm going to say to one guy, to the shortstop, you do this, you do that. We're going to pitch Willie Mays inside. We're going to pitch Willie Mays outside in the 9th inning and things like that. That's why baseball is such a great, great game. It's boring sometimes. The people go in a ball game and they said, you see the guy run the first base. And it's a long game. It takes 3 hours to play 9 innings sometimes. But don't forget, today is so long. The thing is, we got TV. And one, you got a commercial, a 2 minutes commercial on each inning. That's long. We lose 35 to 40 minutes each game for commercial. I know they pay the base salary. That's what it is. But again, I think we got to put up with TV. And like you said before, I don't see why a guy can make $8-9 million a year. That's terrible. I don't know what's going to happen. Like Susan and I, we got a problem. I didn't get a raise this year. I don't know if you got a raise, but I was happy when they let Walker go. I finally got a raise, but not a big one. But again, it's, I think baseball is a great thrill, especially American people. I know it's Jim Favreau back there. I remember I played in a low minor league when I went back in Lawton, Oklahoma, and the guy was a catcher. And in baseball, it's so many things happen in baseball. The guy crossed home plate, and when the umpires don't say anything, that means something fishy. Did he touch home plate? Or something happened? Now, the guy a little bit like Jim Favreau, not too smart, he's our catcher. And, the manager said, tag him. Now he's got the ball. Now he's running at the dugout. He tagged the first baseman, the coaching, the trainer, the bad boy. Now, when the guy saw him coming, he went back to home plate. And that's the first time in my life I saw a guy get cut in a run down between the dugout and home plate. Anyhow, I guess I think we got a few things to give, and Susan's ready to draw a few gifts here. You're going to give the bat away. You're going to give your idol away, Felipe Alou. And anyhow, I hope I see you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One of the only pictures of Ron Pichet without a hat. And we don't know why. Look at that head of hair. This is 1965 when he was with the Angels. And Calvin found these pictures in his collection and had bigger copies made and got all kinds of surprises here this morning when Ron first saw these. And Calvin's going to get a set to send up. There's about 5 different poses, 2 of which will be given away today as part of the things, and that's courtesy of Hometown Cable and Calvin Castine. This is no time for a commercial, but don't forget, Hometown Cable needs some proceeds. Become a patron. I'm advertising for Hometown Cable. That's what some of the money goes for right here. One other thing, I'd like to ask Susan to come up here one more time. She mentioned it during dinner. she arranged to have Alan Calhoun, you might have seen the paper, the handicapped person from Moores, go up for a little tour of Expo Stadium. You tell us about that, would you, Susan? Yeah. Would you please? Because, you know, they're only a few miles up here, folks, and it's real nice that these people come down here and talk to us like this. We're a very small crowd, and they're very good to us, and we should be good to them. Susan, tell us about that story.
Working for a club like the Expos has made opportunities open up sometimes that are very rewarding. Better than that raise that the raise is so small anyway. It's a lot better than the raise that we look forward to each year. The real payback is when you're able to change someone's life just a little bit. And Alvin Calhoun came to the stadium with his friend Dick Favreau. I believe they worked together, and Dick found out that Alan was a great Expo fan and had no ways of getting to the stadium himself. And I think Dick is quite an Expo fan as well, and his son. And they came to the stadium, and Alan had his baseball, and he was waiting in line. I think Larry Walker was one of the players that was signing autographs that day. And given a certain period of time, the players have to be sent back to the field, to the clubhouse, to get ready to go and play. It's a Sunday afternoon game. And we cut the line off, and there was Alan standing there without having had his baseball autographed. Tears, I'm sure, welling in his eyes. And I just caught him from just a glimpse, and I went over, and so I'm not sure what I can do, but I would love to try and get your ball signed for you during the game, or in the next week, I forget which, but come back and see me, and I'll see what I can do. I was able to get his ball signed. He was really thrilled. I mean, I couldn't believe how pleased someone could be over something like that. So I saw Dick a couple more times at the game and asked how Alan was doing, and called him up and had arranged for him to get onto the field during batting practice, to meet the players, to get into the clubhouse, which is a very, very rare thing. Most people are not allowed on the field during batting practice. It's only the press. So Dick brought him down, and we got him onto the field. Well, I can't tell you how pleased I was at the end of that day to see Alan meeting all of his heroes, getting their pictures taken, getting their autographs. And it was nice also to see the players respond. Yes, they get $5 million, $3 million a year, and most of the time they're totally untouchable. But on occasions like this, you see the human side of them coming out. And that was really nice, and I think it's something I'll always remember. I know Alan says he's always going to remember it, but I definitely will always remember it as well. And it gives people, when we see things like that happening, we actually stop the next time and take the time and make a little effort. And it's just unbelievable how a little effort can go a long way. And I think that many times probably when Alan gets a little down, because he's really working hard, and he has a harder time in life than you and I do. It's harder for him to do certain things. So I'm sure when we get down, with all of what we've got, we get down. So I'm sure when he gets down a little bit, he probably remembers that day and looks at his ball that's signed, and it probably makes him feel a little bit better. So to me, that's what the game is all about. And the day that stops, then we're in big trouble. But we're lucky to have people like Ron to remind us of how it was in the older days, and to inspire us, to keep going and not let that big world of baseball, the industry of baseball out there, scare us, and to keep us doing those little things that count in life. So if you have a chance ever to, stop and do something for someone else, go ahead and do it. It's a lot of fun. Thank you again.
Thank you, Susan. That's a very moving story. And Ron, did you hear her say it was different in those olden days? Did you hear her say that? She's going to ride back with you, huh?
You're not coming back with me.
All right, we should take a few seconds here and thank the committee for breakfast this morning. It's an outstanding job. one of the most difficult things is they don't know how many people are coming. They don't have to get tickets ahead of time, so it's very difficult to set up, make sure you got enough and not too much. So we thank the KOCs for this. I'd like to now turn this over to your Grand Knight, Michael Trahan, who will supervise the handing out of these gifts. I know you young people, that's what you're waiting for. And why don't he get off that mic? Well, I'm going to get off the mic. So, Michael?
Thank you, Bob. Do all kids have a ticket? Okay, two? No.
Not the World Series. These should be separate. Yep. So raffle those on.
Well, let's use it for it.
Going down? Oops, wrong. Oh. Okay, all the children have a ticket now?
You better.
I'm going to ask Ron first, and this will be for the baseball bat.
Oh my God. Signed by who?
Cliff Floyd.
Cliff Floyd. Here's one.
And the winner is 085 8274.
Is he here?
7-4. Let me get it over to
Come
you.
on.
You want to come up? Come on.
I got it. Don't hit anybody on the head with it. Whoa. Look at that.
Good Delafrance. Chris, I believe, Delafrance.
Okay, and the next drawing would be for the baseball.
Baseball. Signed by Philippa Lou.
Last three numbers are 247.
Michael Rao
Michael
right
Rao.
here, the winner.
What do you want to go for the tickets?
We'll go for the tickets now. Take one ticket.
Yeah, there are two.
Two
The
tickets.
pair, yeah, it's good for any games, not for the World Series.
263.
Well, now, just a minute here.
What's your name?
Just a minute.
What's your name?
What's his name, Michael? What's
Bradley Trahan. For two more tickets. 253.
Oh, yeah, girl, let it go.
General Bombard. Congratulations.
Equal opportunity here at the Knights of Columbus.
For the last two tickets, 260. Kaylee Carter.
Oh.
Now we can go to the game, Alan.
Okay, now,
Oh my God. Oh, no.
1963 picture from the baseball card. Ron Pichet, signed by Ron Pichet this morning. Courtesy of Calvin Castine.
Good.
Number is 252.
What's yours? Robert Venn. Hey, we got something going here, I'll tell you.
And one more picture.
1961. That same year, he was the #1 pitcher in the Pacific
same
Coast
one?
League.
No.
And when he came up to Milwaukee again, this is his autographed picture, done this morning. Calvin Castine courtesy.
And 267.
Wow.
Abby Lambert.
Yes. Daughter of our previous night, Grand Knight here,
Yep.
Knights of Columbus.
Is that? Is that all we have for raffle? And there's magazines if anybody didn't get one and you want one.
Pass them out to the kids, Mike, and so there's any of the adults, I'm not sure we had enough, so any of the adults want some. Okay.
Any of the adults want a magazine, feel free to take one. Now we have, I'll put that down. We have a few gifts for Ron and Susan for their appreciation to come down today.
Oh, my God.
That's for you too. All right. Thank you for coming down.
That's great.
And that's all I.
How are we going to cross the border? Jim, where's Jim? Give me a little note, at least.
You can tell it's Canadian, so it's Canadian product. You're all set.
Thank you very
They
much.
got breakfast and a couple prizes besides. Look at that. Didn't even have to have a number, Ron. We certainly, in behalf of all the Knights of Columbus and the people in our area in general, we want to thank Susan LeBlanc and Ron Pichet again for coming down to see we people here, us people. They came here to see us and to share your experiences a little bit. And if you have any questions, you want to field any questions right now? Has anybody got any questions?
One-on-one like you do in press conference.
Oh, one-on-one, they want to be right up close, and you can hold his hand. At least you can hold Susan's hand. But remember, she's a grandmother. Thank you very much for coming, and you'll see this and maybe a further interview on Hometown Cable on the 25th, 5 times. I'll advertise at 12:30, 4:15, 8 p.m., midnight, and 8 o'clock on Monday morning, the 26th. You'll see Ron Pichet up close and personal, and Susan too. Thanks very much for coming. Thank you, Michael. Another successful family breakfast, Michael.
Yes, it was.
How long has this been going? How long have you had these breakfasts like this?
Inviting
And with people like
down,
yeah.
I believe the past 4 or 5 years. And we've had representatives from the Expos come down and tell us a little bit about the club.
Right.
They bring books or cards for the kids, and the kids really enjoy it.
Are they planning any KOC trip this summer? Do you know yet?
Offhand, I don't know.
Don't know. Last year, they were having the baseball problems in the league, and they had the previous man, I've forgotten his name. Do you remember his?
Eric Breyer.
Eric Breyer, and he was down here with the Montreal Road Runners, the inline skating professional team, and they came in. They lost the final playoffs in overtime, I think, last year. And we did a story up on the Road Runners in Montreal, and that was also very good. He used to be with the Expos before they had their strike problems. All right, and anything else coming up that you want to mention about the KCs, Michael?
The only thing, if I can, coming up, we have our annual fish fry coming up February 23rd.
Okay.
Is that okay?
That's be 2 days before this show, but you missed it if you weren't here the 23rd.
So
You've been Grand Knight for how long?
I'm in my first year. Sir.
First year, huh? Is it a new experience for you?
Yes, it is.
Were you the deputy Grand Knight?
Yes.
The time before for Mr. Lambert, huh?
Yes.
Well, we're still one of the most active KFC clubs in the Northern Tier,
Yeah.
and have been now since it was organized back in 1952. I was a charter member back then, and not as active now as I was then, but we've got new and young people very, very active in this KFC club. And if you're a member or a friend of a member, you want to get involved in this, or you want to become a member in this KOC, just talk to one of the members that you know in the KOC. You're looking for new members all the time.
Oh, yes. Yep.
We're looking always for good, active, new members. Anything else, Michael?
Can't think of anything.
Can't think of anything.
You're
Thank you
caught me
very
off
much.
guard.
Breakfast was great.
Yes, it was a very good breakfast.
Okay.
Thank you.
See you next year.
Thank you.
Now, you know what, the kids are going to be careful.
Go ahead. Talking about the kids, you got to be careful. Tell us what you mean by that.
No, like you said today, there's different things. Like the kids are so spoiled with the TV and the big money, and it's really tough. We're scouting around a little bit, and everybody, they never play close to the big league, never play in pro ball. But the first thing you know, how much money we're going to make, and I think they're going to spoil the baseball or hockey, or it's terrible.
Ron, you've been in baseball 40 years ago.
That's right.
You love baseball. How many players do you think today love baseball?
Well, I think I would say they love. They like it. They play in the big leagues, and it's not like I said. It's different between 30 years ago when the people they used to play for the Milwaukee Braves, the Yankees, the Braves, the St. Louis Cardinals. But today, I think they make so much money, and they're more independent. They sign a long-term contract. I think it's really bad a little bit, but. It's 1996, but like you said, if you sign 1 year at a time, you got to produce every year. And like you mentioned, Warren Spahn, Spahn, Burdette. Burdette and Spahn had to win 20 games to get a raise, and not a $500,000 raise. It was maybe $5,000 or $6,000. And today it's they sign a 3-year contract with no cut and no trades.
In the Hall of Fame, in your 1961 Milwaukee Braves, Warren Spahn,
Henry Aaron, Eddie Matthews,
Burdette
not yet.
Burdette not in yet.
And in the league, though, we had Willie Mays, Bob Gibson,
yes.
So many
of course,
guys.
61, if you weren't in the National League and you were in the American League, there was a great battle going on between Mantle and Maris for the home run derby. And that's the year that Roger Maris got 61 home runs, asterisk 162 games,
But that year, don't forget, with Mickey Mantle, he had 54, 55 home runs.
Right.
And the difference in baseball, like we said in baseball, if maybe Mantle would have hit third spots instead of Maris, maybe he would have hit 75 home runs that year.
Yes.
But like you said, baseball, it's baseball, but, everybody want to pitch. They didn't want to pitch Mickey Mantle. They want to pitch Maris. That's why he had better pitch to hit than Mickey Mantle had.
When did you start baseball? When you were how old?
Well,
7, 8,
like
10?
I saw some of the kids here today. I started when I'm maybe 8, 9 years old. I was throwing, against the wall and play with the kids and all that. And I keep playing baseball.
Play in high school?
I play in high school, and after that, I play in junior league in Montreal. And
did you play hockey too?
Yeah, but when I signed a pro contract, that was on your contract. You're not allowed to play hockey, not allowed to box, you're not allowed to do it.
How old were you when you signed your contract?
I was 17 years old. My father signed for me, and after that, I went.
And then you signed with the Milwaukee Braves.
Organization, minor league ball club.
How did they know about you?
Well, we had guys who used to play for the Montreal Royals. Roland Gladieux. He was a scout for the Milwaukee Braves, and he saw me play. He watched me at maybe 6, 7 games, and finally he signed me a contract, a pro contract, and I was very pleased.
No $1 million signing.
No. Matter of fact, but I had about $400.
To sign?
That's a bonus they gave me, and not right away. They said it's $200 the 1st of June and 1st of July if you're still with the ball club.
The right-hander or left-hander?
I was a right-hander pitcher, and sometimes he said you better be a left-hander. You got a more chances. But I was very pleased to play with such, like we said before, such a great ball players. I learned so much from those guys. We used to go out sometime with the Spahn, the Burdette, the Eddie Matthews, and learn so many things about the game. And like Henry Aaron was so smart and so good and so great ball player, a great man, but he didn't have the credit he deserved. That guy should be, he beats all kinds of records, but he played in a small market. The small market we talk about, it's Milwaukee was, the two city paper, and so New York City was about 4 or 5 paper, and that's different. And if Aaron would have played in New York, I think he would have made so much money, and it would have been so popular. Yeah. But he was popular in the league, and he was not popular with the pitchers, though everybody was afraid of him.
Sure. Now, the most interesting thing you said for me all morning, you were a roommate with Warren Spahn.
I roomed with Spahn for a couple of years, and he treated me like his own son. I was so pleased. Like he used the old days, he used to say, "You don't make too much money, Ron. I pay everything. Have breakfast. He used to pick up the tab, dinner, and give me all kinds of stuff. Baseball, gloves, a T-shirt, and all that."
Now you mentioned he treated you like a son. Well, how old was he at this time?
Well, that time, we go back
30,
to say 30. He was maybe 35, 36.
Okay, so he was.
And he was a great pitcher. And don't forget, that's another thing the people don't mention about Spahn. He was in World War II, And first big league win was he was 24, 25 years old. Imagine that. It's a little bit like Ted Williams when he lost 6, the best year in his career, go to first World War II and the Korean War. And Spondy, same way, he lost 4 years. And put another 20 games a year, it would have been 80 games. And I think Spondy was, like he said, first win in the big league. He was 25 years old.
As a ball player, do you get together with any of these players you had before?
Yeah.
I mean, at any time, did they have any kind of get-togethers, meetings, or?
It's not like the hockey. Hockey, most of the guy lives in Montreal, but baseball is different place, and but when they play sometimes the old-timers game, and Spondy was here 3 years ago with Burdette, and we had such a fun. Johnny Logan came over, and Willie Mays was here, and that's. But when they meet, like last 2 weeks ago, we were with the old Stubb came back with Cromartie and Ron Hunt, and we talk about the old days. But that's fun about this game. We talk about the old days. It looks like it was more fun the old days than it is today.
I think there was fun.
Oh, yeah.
There was allegiance. You talk about Burdette. You talk about, I'm not sure that Pichet was such a household name at that time, but you take Burdette, Matthews, Aaron, you say, what team? It was the same team. It didn't switch every year, every other year. You had the fastball? Is that what you had?
Yeah, I had a fastball, slider. That's why sinker, fastball, slider. That's what you need when you pitch in relief. You don't want to.
What's a slider? Tell the people what a
slider is. About my slider was to move about 6-7 inches.
Yeah.
And it's the way I used to hold the ball. And it's tough, I'm left-hander. Like I remember McCovey, I used to pitch him inside, start from the plate and move in, and now I jam him a few times. That's what a slider is. And the sinker, when maybe a left-hander, you throw the ball, you turn your wrist a little bit, and the ball goes sink, away from the left-hander. But this slider is good on right-hander hitter too. You pitch, from the middle of the plate up, and that's a strike too. And
we didn't talk about the most important people in your life. Did you get married while you were baseball?
Oh yeah, I was married.
She traveled with you?
No, not anymore. But
did she live?
Oh yeah,
she lived in Milwaukee.
Milwaukee, Los Angeles, Central West. It was all over. And like we said before, Susan was a grandmother. I'm a
You're
grandfather
a grandfather.
too. Yeah, and my son is working for Canadian Airline in Montreal, in Canada, and he's all over the place. And he's got a son, and I'm a grandfather, and my daughter's working for some lawyer's office, and she's working for us too at the ballpark.
How many have a son and a daughter? Son and a daughter. And of course, if you haven't already figured it out by when he started and how old was when he signed, he was born, born in
35.
35 in Verdun.
I'll be 61 pretty soon.
How long did you have? Your father was alive when you were playing in the majors?
Yeah, but he passed away about 10 years ago. My mother too, about 6-7 years ago.
He never saw you play the majors?
No, the only place he saw me was on TV.
Is that right?
Yeah. But we didn't have too much money, and it cost a lot of money to move over.
Was he a baseball fan?
Not too much. No, he was.
He said, "You're supposed to play hockey, Ron."
That's right. Huh? He followed me though. He really was behind me. They really helped me with I never missed anything. I needed a glove, I got it, and he was very nice.
If you were watching baseball games and you wondered if those are human beings out there or those machines, at least some of them are human beings, and here he is right here. 30 years since 1965 when he was with the Angels. Just gave one of those, the picture I have is 1965. I'm very fortunate. My grandson won your picture, too. He's very happy about that. And how's your life now? It's slowed down a little bit?
Yes. We're doing a lot of meeting like this in the morning or at night, and I travel a lot for the ball club. And like I said, we've got a great organization. I know I talked a lot to Mr. Brushy, our president, and I know I'm going all over. And we try to bring people back to the ballpark. Like I said, we got to spend a lot of times here in, Plattsburgh, Burlington. The people knows the game. Like this morning, everybody, if you talk about Spawn or Gibson or Timmy McCarver, the people knows that. It's a little bit different up there in north of Quebec. They said, well, they're not too familiar with that. But here in the States, it's so easy. And I remember last year I came to play golf here, and the barmaid, I was talking, she knew the game. And, the people on the golf bar knew the game. And we were treated like, $1 million. We went there, play for nothing, and the people was very, very good.
So you think your coaching days are done?
Oh, yeah.
You can improve on 114 losses, That would be easy.
That's right. That was a rough year, though. But the thing, I was really pleased at the end. We lost so many games, but we had the guys like, the Dawson, the Valentine, the Carter, all the young guys was coming up, and 3 years later, they almost win the playing the World Series.
We'll take a short break. We are watching Hometown Cable. We're at the Knights of Columbus. We're talking with Ron Pichet, an outfielder, a pitcher. What am I talking about? Outfielder.
Right.
Pitcher, of course, with the Milwaukee Braves and the California Angels. We'll be right back. You were talking, you mentioned, and it kind of passed me over there, that Jim Beatty is in Montreal now, and he's a manager?
He's the GM manager, and he's the GM, and he's a vice president for the Montreal Expos. And we're glad to have him. You know, he learned so much, and he played for the Yankees.
Yes.
He played in the World Series.
Didn't have the control he should have had.
Yeah, but he's a big, tall guy.
Big, tall guy. And one more thing in our area, very interesting, when he was pitching at Dartmouth, he was pitching to Tim McDonough, one of our teachers here, from, yes. And his dad, of course, Mr. McDonough, Festus McDonough, played with St. Albans Giants back there, and he played with Sternweiss, who played with the Yankees later on, and he never went on beyond there, but his father was a great player. Then Timmy, of course, caught, and he had a real fastball, this guy here. I want to just show you another thing I found in this 1962 book.
Oh, my God.
The Milwaukee Braves in 1961, and the fifth person in here, fourth or fifth in that first row here, is Ron Pichet.
We should hide that book.
Good memories though, Ron. Huh? Very good memories.
I'm glad you got that.
And first man in that very short row in the front is Hank Aaron, Eddie Matthews, Joe Adcock, Torrey,
Del Crandall, Johnny Logan, Boris Covington. My God, what a club! What a club!
What a club!
I wish we had this club right now here.
We don't want to hold you any longer. I could talk with you for hours.
I know
but
that.
we, again, on our behalf and on behalf of the Knights Club, thank you so much for taking your valuable time and come down and share your life with us. Really, you know.
I'm very pleased, and I really want to thank the people from Champlain, the invitation, and Jim Favreau especially. Jim is a good friend of mine. He called me a lot to Montreal, and his brother Dick, and I hope we see you guys in the next season in Montreal.
Okay. When you say those bums make a lot of money, this is not a bum, and he didn't make all that money. Remember your top salary?
It was about $12,000.
$12,000.
That's it.
And you came up the road. No wonder you said you wish you were just starting out. Ron Pichet, thanks very much, Ron.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching Hometown Cable, people. That'll be the end of this segment. Don't forget, Hometown Cable can't exist without your patronage. And boy, I'll tell you, someone's getting the word because the mail's been coming into Hometown Cable, and we'd like to see it continue to grow. A great year starting out, and the more that you can help Hometown Cable, the more we'll have for you. And this is just another one. Sundays, and Calvin's out again. Did games yesterday at Peru with Northeastern and continues. Thanks for watching, and your comments are always appreciated.